Welcome back to The Upshot, the podcast about the funniest stories in sport this week. On the show today, the drunken ex-Villa winger who hospitalised two teenagers in a dressing room brawl.
Yeah, it happens.
Yeah,
happens to the best
Who
of
among
us?
Hasn't done that before? Ian Rush's score-settling musical.
You regret saying that.
I'll be in the next one, hopefully. And Man United's miserable summer holiday.
You're all signed up for Race Across the World, Series 5.
My name is Jack, and I'm joined by Mr. George Wilde.
How you doing?
How you doing? JP's been giving his marching orders.
Axed. There was a lot of, people on the Reddit, they're sick of him.
Yeah, and we listened. So, ding dong, the witch is dead. You'll never hear from him ever again. Or Zach, actually.
Yeah, no, sick of him.
Who? Yeah, exactly. It's just me and George now. George Wilde. So, listeners will remember him from Andy van der Meijden.
Yeah, Wonder Kids.
Wonder Kid.
Yeah.
Fucking hell, racking my brains.
Jesus.
Did Patreon last week, and you were described as refreshing by listeners.
By one listener, to be absolutely fair.
It was a weird topic to call refreshing because we were talking about nonsense. But anyway, thanks to that listener. Zach's still in Malawi, if you're wondering. He's still in exile on his holiday. And actually,
week 3, is it?
Yeah, week 3. He's taking the piss. And actually, on the subject of holidays, I've got a good one regarding Man United. So Scott McTominay, we talked last week that he spunked away 2 million quid so his girlfriend can lend money to Gareth Southgate's agent. But probably doubt that Scott cares really because he had a hell of a weekend.
What a time. What a story.
Yeah. So Scott is now officially a Neapolitan legend. He won Serie A on Friday. And didn't he score like a mad...
Yeah, acrobatic.
It wasn't a bicycle kick, was it? It was like a sideways.
It was, adjacent. Bicycle kick adjacent.
It was an acrobatic kick. He scored that. They won Serie A. He was then named Serie A's MVP, player of the season.
Player of the season. Smoked his way through the title bus parade.
Yeah, so there's like loads of videos of him and he's just chain smoking.
Yeah.
Did he always smoke or is that a Napoli thing?
I think as soon as you move to Napoli, they hand you
a
pack of 20 at the airport.
A Virgin Mary idol, a pack of 20.
And they say, get on with it.
Some coffee,
tomatoes.
A moped.
Tomatoes, famously.
Yeah. Some of that ice cream, the 3 flavours ice cream.
Yeah.
Probably eaten all. I never really rated Neapolitan ice cream.
You ate the chocolate. And
do they eat it in Napoli?
I really doubt it.
They got bigger fish to fry. Anyway, I also saw he met the Pope.
I missed that.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, they hooked him up with the Pope, which I guess again is just part of the awards that come.
Do you think he did a Maradona in the?
Did some bag in the bathroom?
That was what Maradona did, wasn't it?
Fucking hell, we told the story ages ago about how Maradona went on this bender the night before meeting the Pope, and then his agent was there, and his agent said that he went and used the Pope's bathroom and did coke in it, and. We just, when the Pope died, obviously reposted that clip on social media. Gotta farm the clicks. And so many people being like, you're a fucking gullible idiot. Like this, you've just made this up. Which, look, maybe you don't agree the story is true, but it is in a very well-researched book, whose name I forget, that is the basis for that celebrated doc about Maradona. And the source is his agent.
Yeah. The book was by Mr. Pants, was it?
Yeah, by celebrated author Mr. Pants. It was quite a well-researched book. Anyway, McTominay, he's now a Naples idol along with Diego, with San Januarius, the patron saint of Napoli.
Please don't patronise me by explaining.
And of course, the bloke who was preserved mid-wank during the Vesuvius eruption.
Yeah, who could forget?
Yeah, if people haven't seen the picture, I actually hadn't really heard of him till recently, but Google it, it's incredible. He's definitely wanky. Anyway, it's all kind of sliding doors for Scott, I guess, because he's this like Naples legend and forever will be, but he could have been mired in the absolute hell that is Man United this season had they not sold him.
It's quite amazing how everyone who leaves Man United is suddenly amazing. It's brilliant.
Just like freed from the shackle, freed from the basement, It's Fritzl's basement. You're freed from it. The only way is up.
Yeah, obviously, like Rashford was tearing up the Champions League with Villa. Anthony is in a European final tonight at the time of recording.
Jesse Lingard's banging them in for FC Seoul.
yeah, absolutely. To a lesser extent.
Mason Greenwood, probably not going to talk about that one. Yeah, and had Scott stayed, he would, right now, as we speak, be boarding a plane to Man United's miserable post-season tour of Asia.
Jesus, yeah. Economy, I assume.
Yeah, surely. If Jim Ratcliffe's got anything to do with it, I'm surprised he's not making them drive there like what's that called, the Mongol Rally. You get sponsored. I mean, it's so depressing that you've had a miserable season.
You're all signed up for Race Across the World, Series 5.
Or you probably just want to go to fucking Dubai or whatever they want to do. Ocean Beach Club, maybe. But instead, they are playing Asian All-Stars in Kuala Lumpur.
Yes, please.
Then they're playing the Hong Kong national team in Hong Kong. And then some of them have to go to Mumbai to do a public appearance for a tyre company.
Yes.
Really good. Official tyre company in Man United, I think, I think that's real salt in the wound at that point.
They had like an official tractor company for a bit, didn't they?
They've got everything, yeah.
Fingers in many pies.
Yeah, I guess why not? Some players aren't going. So the injured players obviously aren't.
Right, okay.
Good time to fake an injury. I thought Alejandro Garnacho wouldn't be going because everyone's saying he's on the way out. And apparently there was a meeting of the entire squad at the end of the season, and some dressing room sources leaked this, that Amorim told him in front of everyone, you better pray you can find a club to sign you, which is savage.
Yeah, I mean, from what I understand, dressing room source means Garnacho.
Yeah,
That's,
yeah, almost certainly.
Yeah.
He's even being made to go on the tour just as punishment, I guess.
Yeah, that is punishment.
That is
enough,
funnier
isn't it,
than not letting him go.
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, no, you, in fact, are going to go and do the official tractor.
Yeah, that's worse than training with the reserves. That's worse than,
Yeah, we're sending you to Almaty in Kazakhstan.
You were going to be the face of the new tyre campaign. That's awful.
Yeah, I slightly missed where it went wrong with Garnacho. Like, I know he didn't play a bit and he complained. And then at the end of the season, he said, our season was shitty and now we lose the final. We can't beat anyone in the league. And apparently Amorim was annoyed. But that's exactly the way Amorim talks.
Yeah, he's learned that from Ruben.
And Jim Ratcliffe.
Yeah.
Like, they're both, when Jim Ratcliffe took over and he was just like, the IT department in this club is revolting.
Yeah, nothing can save our season.
Yeah.
I think it was the play time, was it? That's like sort of directly having a go at his manager, I guess. I think he said
he only got 20 minutes.
Yeah.
But like, Amorim needs to chill out a bit, I think.
Mm.
Because he's losing a lot of his best players. Anyway, hopefully Bruno and co can chalk up some wins in Asia. If not, if not for each other and not for the beleaguered fan base, then at least do it for our old friend, the United Strand. So if people aren't familiar, this is the fella who isn't cutting his hair until Man United win 5 in a row. And he's got very curly hair.
Yeah, it's quite the structure now.
Is this what's known as a biffro?
It's looking, it's quite abstract architecture. I like it.
Well, because we were saying, if people haven't seen it, he's at the United Strand on Instagram, and he hasn't cut his hair in 235 days. So it's got very, very long. We talked about it, I think we were near day 100, and we said he looked like the Yorkshire Ripper.
Yeah.
Because he has got the Ripper beard.
Yeah, which, as far as I can tell, that's not to do with the challenge. That's just optional. He's come for
looking like the Ripper,
having the Peter Sutcliffe beard.
Yeah, the beard's not part of it, so
no.
I guess some footballers do have a little.
Well, he's that's just for him. That's fine.
Yeah, but I think when Carl Walker does it, he doesn't look like the Yorkshire Ripper. Whereas when our old friend does. Anyway, he's gone past the Peter Sutcliffe stage. He's no longer looking like one of the worst criminals in British history. He sort of looks a bit Bob Dylan. Have we got a picture? I think that's kind of Bob Dylan-y, isn't it?
It's something.
I'm still seeing Peter Sutcliffe, I'll be honest.
Yeah, it's kind of got sort of old-time barrister wig.
Yeah.
If it was dyed black.
Yeah, if it was white. It's getting a little bit sort of like Regency Prince.
Yeah.
If he like tied it at the back with a ribbon.
Yeah.
It's kind of
dandy.
Because it's not a Fellaini, because it's sort of long
tall
at the front and back. But I'm hoping we get full Diana Ross by sort of summer. Just he needs to even it out a bit. He did post quite a good video showing how long it takes to dry when he gets it wet. It's hours.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It's quite the commitment. Also, the other thing I was thinking he could do with it is dye it blonde, do some ringlets, and he could be
Sure.
Carlos Valderrama, the Colombian.
Yeah.
How do you get it in ring? Is that a Jerry curl? Ringlets like
You're
that.
asking the wrong person, I think.
You're not an expert on curly hair.
Well, it wouldn't be I'd say a perm, but he's already.
Yeah, but I think, don't you do a Jerry curl? But I guess you've got straight hair if you do a Jerry curl. But I
Yeah.
think if you do that, you get the ringlety look, which is what you need for Valderrama.
I mean, what he could, because didn't Valderrama then straighten his hair?
Yeah, have you seen the picture?
Yeah,
of
which is quite amazing.
Yeah,
I mean, maybe
I don't know-
United Strand could do that.
If you haven't seen it, I'll link to the Valderrama straightened hair one because it's amazing. But for some reason, it always makes me think that I'm like having a dream where I'm getting a blowjob from someone,
Right.
someone with really nice, like freshly straightened hair, some blonde beauty, and then suddenly look down and it is maybe feel a bit of a tickle from the moustache, and then look down and it is El Pibe himself. Hola. ¿Qué pasa? If you don't know what I'm talking about, do look at the picture of him. I'll link to it. It does. You can see how that would happen, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I know you're supposed to yes and in these situations, aren't you? Yeah.
That's in a way you and too. He should straighten it though. You're right.
Yeah, that would be something.
Yeah, we should get him on.
Yeah. You might have to stop referring to him as Peter
Nah,
something.
he loves it. We've spoken on DMs. We'll get him on.
Nice.
Anyway, I thought, okay, fine. He can bang 3 wins on the Asia tour. He only needs 5 wins in a row to be able to cut his hair. Which, by the way, Man United last did in February 2024. So
yeah, which it doesn't sound that long, but yeah. So they didn't win back-to-back games in the league at all this year.
did they not?
No.
That's tough.
Yeah.
But so it was only under Eric Ten Hag that they did, which is a measure of how far they've fallen.
Yeah, I just don't know if I can't see it happening again anytime soon.
I don't think Amorim's going to be there to see it, would be my guess.
Yeah. So he's United Strand said friendlies aren't going to count, right? So
Oh shit, yeah.
So yeah, this is it until at least September.
New season starts mid-August, so he's got guaranteed 4 months to get the 5.
Yeah. It's going to be quite.
Because they haven't even got any like European qualifiers they can.
I tell you what, if we have another sort of like Indian summer in September, it's gonna be hot under that hair as well.
And I for one can't wait. I think at that point, straighten it and dye it blonde.
Yeah.
and give me a call. Speaking of Amorim's record, annoyingly they won against Villa on the last game of the season, because before that his points per game in the Premier League was 0.92, which is worse than Paul Jules, who his record includes that infamous season where Derby got the record low for Premier League points. I think Paul only got about 8 points that season.
Yeah,
he took over mid-season. They got 11.
Davis, yeah. And I don't think he was overseeing the win.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So somehow Ruben's still in that ballpark, even though Paul Jules got that record. Obviously, Paul Jules also that season starred in the greatest football sex tape of all time. It's an hour long and it is very, very funny.
Yeah.
His commentary throughout it and his attire and the setting of it is incredible.
Yeah. So because
I've watched it. Can't find it. So basically, we're going to get into the gory details of it on Patreon today, because we're going to do today's Patreon is a special on the Derby County 11-point season.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Rams to the slaughter, I'm calling it. So yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people know about that season, but actually there was some really funny off-field shit, which we'll get into. And of course, among that was Paul Jules' sex tape.
Some more harrowing than funny.
Yeah, I think it's very funny. But anyway, we'll get into that on the Patreon, because it is a hell of a sex tape. Patreon.com/UpshotTowers. All right, slight change of gear, George. I want to talk about the Pope. Actually, we've already talked about the Pope today, haven't we? But
yeah, I suppose we have. We spoke about Pope Leo.
Yeah, His Holiness. Anyway, I'm still not quite comfortable with having an American Pope. It feels wrong.
I know what you mean.
And
Chicago as well.
Is it Chicago?
I think he's from Chicago.
Yeah. To be fair, where in America would be, I guess, Boston, but
maybe a West Coast.
a West Coast Pope.
Quite good.
They're not ready. Anyway, when you elect an American Pope, he's going to have some dodgy relatives.
Sure.
Because anyone with relatives in America has got, a sinister Mormon cousin, or a brother with an unhealthy amount of posts on Truth Social about pizza-based pedo rings.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or perhaps he'll be related to Eric Cantona. So some French genealogy experts have been digging through the new Pope, Leo XIV's family tree. And apparently he's a distant cousin to King Eric.
Wow.
Which, I mean, I should say it's via a marriage in the 16th century. So.
Because I read about this and it's big study, right? They've like poured over sort of centuries worth of like family trees and birth records and stuff to like painstakingly realise that Eric Cantona's related to the Pope.
Yeah.
And the tabloids went with the headline, "People are only just realising that the Pope is related to Eric Cantona."
Well, like, you fucking idiots, you didn't know.
We've known all along.
It's like a 2-month project. Well, you don't know about the 16th century marriage between the Plantagenet Baron.
Oh, didn't you know? 12th generation.
I don't think Eric Cantona knew, to be fair.
No.
And I don't think he's going to be popping around to the Vatican for a quick wafer and a cup of blood of Christ, because he's no fan of the Catholic Church. I think we talked about this in our Cantona episode. So after he got banned for his kung fu kick in '95, he went on French television and quite a strange rant, just about nothing in particular. But at one point, he ranted about Catholics murdering people in the Crusades. So sort of hundreds of years earlier. And he then turned his ire on the Pope, who at the time was John Paul II. And he pointed out that John Paul wears a Rolex. And then he said, me, I piss in his arse the same way I piss in the arse of journalists, which is one of the great insults.
Yeah.
Some people actually, so the insult in French is je lui pisse au cul, which could be piss on the arse, but I prefer it's in
absolutely.
it. In it.
More, direct. Say what you
Cheek
mean.
spread.
Yeah.
I don't know how you... Maybe a sort of Spanish Inquisition torture that you can use some device that allows you to do that.
I would say, I don't know.
Fantasies again.
I would say I don't really know how it relates to the Kung Fu kick. It's very odd.
I think he was saying it's mental that you're getting annoyed with me about this when
Catholics murdered
people
800 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good point.
You've not read about the sacking of some Cypriot town.
I mean, I guess he's got a point, but you could also use that to justify absolutely anything.
I think it's known as whataboutery.
Yeah, it's a slippery slope.
Yeah. And doesn't he... Yeah, and then doesn't he hate journalists, which is why he pisses in their ass. Because he'd just been in Guadeloupe where an ITV news reporter had tracked him down, and Cantona had got him in a headlock and dragged him down the beach, screaming, "I will kill you." And then he drop kicked the reporter because it's his special move.
Yeah.
So I guess he metaphorically did piss in his arse. Maybe I'll start using it.
Yeah.
It reminds me of I was with my mate once in the street. This is a visual story, but my mate, like, you know, when you just accidentally bump into someone's shoulder, this is an accident.
Sure.
And sometimes people turn around and give you like a look and get a bit annoyed. But the bloke turned round and went like this. He licked his middle finger twice. He went, and then he licked it and then shoved it in the air at my friend.
Yeah,
which I've never seen before.
Just for a nudge.
Yeah, just for a nudge.
That's good.
But for me, it's in the piss in your ass category. It's just like you've put together two things I've never seen before.
Yeah, well, you can maybe start using that for, the next time you get some angry comments on Instagram.
Yeah, well, I just like piss in your ass.
Yeah, or just make a gif of you.
Yeah, just licking my middle finger. He actually licks it like 5 times. It's very visceral, I think. It's base. Anyway, Cantona's also related to Albert Camus, the
Is he really?
absurdist philosopher and author.
Yeah.
That feels more fitting than the Pope.
Yeah. Well, I think I pissed in the ass of journalists. That's a...
That's direct.
Yeah. I think, is that from the myth of Sisyphus? I think
it's from L'Étranger.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
But I can see that link more.
Yeah, just when you thought he couldn't get more French.
Sort of wondering if we need something in the studio that says I piss in your arse. Maybe a bit much.
We'll see. Yeah. We'll workshop it.
Yeah, we'll workshop it. There's no bad ideas. Actually, Albert Camus was a goalkeeper as well.
Was he really?
So
before, presumably.
Before writing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was in the 20s. So when was his pomp? 30? I actually don't know. 30s.
Yeah, no, so, I'll be honest, you've called my bluff. I knew the name of his books.
Albert Camus, born 1900. It's interesting that stuff he said about existentialism. Actually, speaking of inappropriate places to piss, Nicolo Zaniolo, do people remember him? He had a brief spell at Villa.
Yeah.
Sort of attacking midfielder. He was on loan there, but he was mainly at Roma, and now he's actually at Fiorentina. He's on loan there.
Yes, from Galatasaray.
Yeah, or Trabzonspor, somewhere in Turkey. And he had a wild one on Monday night. Safe to say. So he went to a youth match it was Roma v Fiorentina. So he's got a foot in each camp.
Yeah, showing support.
Because Roma's the club where he sort of had all his history. Fiorentina is his current club. And so I guess, it's quite nice of him. It's probably quite a big deal for the players, they're a bunch of teenagers. And this, Italian international Euros winner, I think, comes down and pays a visit. And he actually, after the game, he even took the incredibly generous step of visiting both dressing rooms. Really nice. Yeah. Classy touch. Unfortunately, it wasn't all glad tidings for the youngsters. So after his visit, AS Roma released an official club statement, which reads as follows. Witnesses report Zaniolo appeared visibly intoxicated. He urinated in Roma facilities, provoked players, and, without verbal exchange, physically struck Mattia Almaviva and violently pushed Marco Litti against a bench. Litti had recently undergone shoulder surgery. Both players required hospitalisation. Almaviva received a 10-day recovery prognosis. Litti is out for 21 days.
Jesus.
If you're wondering, they're 19 and 18, respectively.
Old enough to give
as good as they got.
Exactly.
I probably should say, for balance, because this is, we care about balance. Nico has told a different story. He says, at the end of the match, I went into the locker room to congratulate the Fiorentina lads, and then I passed through to the Roma room to salute and compliment them on their season.
Yep.
He goes on. However, at a certain point, they started to insult me. So at that stage, to avoid the situation degenerating, I preferred to simply leave.
And I, for one, believe in.
I mean, it's quite a big gap between the two versions.
Yeah. Yeah, he was he was visibly intoxicated, to be fair.
Let's go from the top. So visibly intoxicated, I'm buying that.
Yeah.
He doesn't say he wasn't. It's good enough for me.
Yeah, and he's at the football. He's having a good time.
You have a pint of the football, don't
the
you?
boys. Yeah,
this is the Italian Youth Cup semi-final. You've got to have a drink. Pissing in the facilities. That sounds like you just use their loo.
Yeah, which I think is quite a petty thing to get annoyed about.
But there's sort of friendly pissing and angry pissing, I would argue.
Sure.
It's like,
you think there was quite a heavy flow?
I think it's like, do you mind if I use your loo?
You think he didn't lift the seat up?
Oh, you definitely didn't lift the seat up. I think he went on the floor a bit.
Yeah,
it's like, do you mind if I use your loo? You go in, you do it. You look a bit embarrassed after, thanks guys.
Sure.
And then there's, just go straight into the bogs.
Door open.
I mean, they haven't even said it was a toilet. Facilities, it could be a shower.
Yeah.
Could be.
Yeah.
And anyway, let's just say that was just a piss. But then I think what basically happened is there were some snarky comments from either them or him. I actually think they might have provoked him a bit. And then they were blocking his way maybe a bit, and he shoved and struck. I believe they shoved and struck.
They said, you're gonna wipe the seat after that.
You've seen the state of what you've done. I mean, do they say urinate? Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the truth's obviously somewhere in the middle.
I'd be leaning quite heavily towards Roma's statement.
Yeah, they've probably got more witnesses. Do you think, why are they giving him shit though?
Why is he visiting?
Glad tidings, to salute and compliment them.
Did Fiorentina... So Roma won the game?
I actually don't know. Did they?
We'll find that out, because if Fiorentina won, he was in there to gloat.
Yeah. But he's an ex-Roma...
Fiorentina defeated Roma.
Fiorentina won. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I think it could be a bit of both. It was like, it could have been friendly, but he was a bit pissed. Someone made a comment, he overreacted, and he's hospitalised 2 teenagers.
Yeah, it happens.
Yeah,
happens to the best of us.
Who among us hasn't done that before? Yeah, I actually once got headbutted I was 16, and there was I think he was 25, so similar age gap.
I think that's the same age as Zaniolo, maybe?
Roughly similar age gap. And I tried to break him up from fighting with someone in the street, and
two strangers.
He turned. Yeah, I think one of them was my friend, and he was not. I wasn't being aggy. And then he turned and went to shake my hand, so I shook it, and he headbutted.
Oh, come on!
And then I went, embarrassingly, I went to see a nose doctor just to be like, should I get my nose straightened? He was like, don't bother.
Right.
And on the way home, I got mugged. Terrible sequence of events. Absolutely cleaned me out, they did. And like in fucking Peep Show, they did the thing where they made me run away after they mugged me.
Did they really?
Yeah, which, that's...
Oh, man.
Yeah,
That's...
all in all, I sort of think I dropped like 6 tiers in the social pecking order in like quite a short space of time.
Were your friends there to see you get mugged?
No. The mug was solitary, but their butting was quite public, which I almost would have preferred it the other way around.
Yeah, God, was this like on a high street?
The mugging?
No, I meant the both.
No, it was in the Isle of Wight actually, where all these mad things happen.
Where there is no high street.
It was late at night. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Anyway, thanks by the way to DC1908 on Reddit for the story about Zaniolo.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So we've spoken. I think you've spoken before about the Cultures podcast. They do their Ballon Divorce. Give it out each year for the the person with the most divorced dad energy. I think obviously we all thought it was a complete non-contest this year because of Juan Panabe, who you'll remember as Lazio's Igor handler, who posted pictures of his penis online and got the sack, and then barricaded himself in the dressing room. So it's sort of.
Do we know what happened to him?
He might still be there.
We should check out.
We'll check. Maybe that's one for
Still
next week. Still there, still rock hard. But yeah, so we thought 1 horse race, quite boring. It's like, that when City was going to win the league 4 times in a row, he's sick of it. But one finally has a worthy competitor because Liverpool legend Ian Rush has come rushing through the gate. He has put his name to a 90-minute score-settling musical created entirely on AI in the style of Hamilton.
So when you say score settling, who?
So it's called Rush for Justice. Cool. And it details his legal battle against a Surrey scaffolding company and a small Wigan law firm. But he also uses it to lay into like the media, journalists. So he has a go at Robbie Fowler as well, the Athletic, former MP Tracy Crouch, a load of other journalists.
Jamie Carragher as well.
Yeah. So there's a lot to unpack. Probably, I think it's probably a 3-parter.
Can we listen to a clip of it?
Yeah.
Before we go further, yeah, here we go.
Now here's a tale from Merseyside, surreal but sadly true, of legends draped in scarlet red, whose boots once split the blue. Fowler, Carragher, icons both, with Rushy through and through, were asked to send a video clip, just something mates would do. Aye, go on, lad! They hit record for charity or thanks. For Urama, for the kids, no scandal in the ranks. They smiled and sent their well-wishing, then whoosh, the gears were cranked. Because a ghost in media's wires had flipped it on its flanks.
Is that enough? Yeah. It's enough for me.
It's never enough.
Yeah.
Hang on, so just to unpack that bit, it sounds like he's annoyed with them for not doing a video in support of his
Yeah.
case.
So firstly, credit to Martin Calladine, he's one of the journalists that gets lampooned in the musical. So he's done a really great article trying to sort of unpack how and why this has happened. But you might have noticed in that clip, he mentions Arama.
Yeah.
So basically, about 4 years ago, Ian Rush is like, I think, an investor and maybe an advisor to this sort of shady company called Arama, who were going around. They've been accused of basically buying up non-league football grounds and then using break clauses in the contracts to evict the clubs.
And turn them into
and
housing
then,
developments or
something like that. I'm not quite... But anyway, anyone who's ever written an article about Irama or Ian Rush gets a name check.
Hey, why is Ian Rush... Is he involved with the property firm?
Yeah, so he's involved with Irama. And basically, I think he'd asked Carragher and Fowler to record like a message supporting him. which they I think they'd done.
Oh, really?
But then all this stuff came out and they were suddenly like, well, we weren't aware of this.
Yeah, I don't want to be involved in your...
Withdrew it. And that's what Rushy had a problem with because they didn't message him first.
But was their video message going to be like, just want to say shout out to Ian Rush in his battle against a scaffolding firm and like...
Possibly. Like I
Because
said,
if my
there's
mate
two-
asked me to do that, I'd be like, fuck off. Which I guess is where they landed in the end.
That's a shout. It was going to bring me to my next question, but we'll leave that. It's very odd. So yeah, he goes. There's lots of journalists that have written about this, and you've got 90 minutes, right? You can
90 minutes long.
90 minutes long.
AI generated.
AI
So
generated.
he's given them some storyline. I mean, what I would say for it is, and this is actually quite frightening, it's kind of feels real, like a musical, doesn't it? I mean, borderline catchy.
Well, yeah, I suppose so.
I thought Hamilton was shit, but this.
Yeah, so yeah, I guess so he has a go at loads of journalists, including there's a photographer called Ollie Chamberlain who gets a mention, who's probably more baffled by this than most, because he's never, he's a photographer who's never written a story about Ian Rush or Arama, but he's taken a generic picture of a football pitch and uploaded it to Flickr, and one of the magazines that has covered Arama has just used his picture and credited him. And then
Rushy's gone for him in the musical.
he's gone for it. Yeah. That was enough.
Is there like a whole scene?
Yeah. So yeah, there's a whole. It goes in on him. I think they mistook him for the editor or the writer of the piece and said, Ollie Chamberlain, you didn't check your facts.
Sounds a lot like Ian Rush has compiled a list of enemies and then fed that into the AI.
Yeah.
And then said, make a musical about this.
Go away.
So what? Probably a list of enemies with like a line or two about how they've wronged him.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking, I don't know if there's a Hamilton 2, but we're giving Rushy quite a bit. Maybe George Wilde, Wilde. If you want to put me in, I don't want any of the sort of lawsuits or legal trouble that comes with it, but I would love a mention.
What in the next
Rush for Justice 2?
Yeah, which
Electric Boogaloo.
Given the success of Rush for Justice 1,
Yeah.
has it? Where's this been released?
Right. So I think
Because by the way, it's audio only.
it's
Isn't it?
audio only, although they are trying to get a film. So the audio only musical premiered at Cannes last week.
Oh really? Cannes Film Festival.
Cannes Film Festival. Well, kind of. You're not going to read about it in Hollywood Reporter.
Right.
You're not going to see Rushy brushing shoulders with Clooney
On the red
on
carpet.
the red carpet. So it wasn't affiliated with the actual festival, but they did a sort of ticketed screening at a rental property in the city.
So they've claimed it as a Cannes premiere. It's an Airbnb.
It's an Airbnb,
But
I
hang on,
think.
who's buying a ticket to a screening and what? And it's just audio.
Yeah, I'm not really sure, but apparently they were posting loads of adverts in sort of, I don't know, trade media maybe, or like I think film forums basically asking for students to film visuals to go along with the
Right.
audio.
So that you're not just because I think.
But they were asking them to do it for free using their own equipment.
Of course.
And I don't think they had any takers so far.
I feel like sitting through a 90-minute screening of an audio-only musical about a scaffolding firm versus Ian Rush is torture.
Yeah.
That's like, in Guantanamo, they play like Christmas songs or like like really heavy rock. This would probably be in that category.
Yeah, for most people, but you seem to love it.
Well, it's surprisingly catchy. I could do a couple of minutes of him talking about Robbie Fowler. Has he actually fallen out with everyone?
I guess so. It's hard to say whether Arama's done this on his behalf and he's just put his name to it, or if he was the one feeding the prompts.
Well, he's made it
into-
quite about himself and about his like.
I would say the poster and the is very much him.
Of all the things to fall out with your mates about, this feels like an error. This is proper midlife crisis stuff.
Yeah, it's something. It's-
It's just one of those as well. You can never predict some of the weird stories that come up, but an Ian Rush AI musical.
yeah. 2025, eh?
Right. I think we got some other Ian Rush stories that we might save for a future week. Although, have you ever seen one I will mention now? Have you ever seen the picture of him? I think it's after Liverpool won the title in like late 80s. And when they have those big team baths, and I think like Kenny Dalglish has just been dumped in the bath in like his full tracksuit.
Yeah, okay.
But then sitting on the side is Ian Rush, completely naked with a can of beer, and he's got two things I've mentioned. He always was very skinny, but he looks like he's been building the ridge over the River Kwai. He's very, very skinny, and his body hair. So his leg is perfectly covered in like a thick sheet of hair.
looks like he's in suspenders, doesn't it?
Yeah, because it stops at the groin and then there's no other hair on him. Google it. Again, I'll link to it. Ian Rush's 1990 body baffles supporters. That's the headline. It's mental. It's a hell of a pick. Yeah, maybe that'll be in the next musical.
Yeah. Oof, you'll regret saying that.
Yeah, I'll be in the next one, hopefully. All right, last week we talked about Kieran Trippier and his visits to Newcastle lap dancing club For Your Eyes Only, which a source close to Kieran had described as, he's a regular there, but he was not responsible for the 10 grand bill that someone had racked up under his account.
Yeah, I think they said he has visited before.
And he will again. But he didn't rack up the 10 grand bill.
No.
Anyway, we had, I would describe it as an alarming number of responses from people familiar with For Your Eyes Only. Had a lot of DMs. So one of them, who is a source close to an employee at the club, they shed some light on Trippier's relationship with the club, actually. They said, I'm not going to name them, Trips is indeed known to attend the club, although in fairness, he is said to typically bring his current lady friend and never personally engages in dances himself. In the weird world of footballers, it's probably somewhere to go that's reasonably hassle-free, backdoor entry, etc.
Yeah.
I'm not going to stoop to the level of making a backdoor entry joke.
Yeah.
But I kind of get that. That, like, you know, a bit like...
Especially in Newcastle, right? Like, you've got Tonali rocking up in spoons and getting...
mobbed,
yeah.
It's quite like, you probably do get a bit of privacy. This guy says that Trippier brings all his mates and pays up front, so they'll just be like, roughly how many dances do you want? And that's how you end up buying.
You'll say 100.
Yeah, 114.
And that's how you end up with a £10,000 bill.
Yeah, so that's their explanation. And then maybe he, had one apple ties and just left.
Sure.
That's the explanation, which I actually find it quite plausible.
Mm.
Like in The Sopranos, they just sort of hang out in those places.
Yeah.
And it's quite big in American sport, isn't it? That, like, that's where you socialise. There is some privacy to it. We had someone else, quite a few messages as well about the pricing structure.
Yeah, well, you did ask, to be fair.
I did ask, and again, I'm going to assume these people don't want to be named, but one of them, because we were like, because there was a 50 quid dance and a 100 quid dance. This person said, basically, he said, for 20 quid cash or 25 quid card is a standard dance, more than adequate. Won't ask what that means.
Yeah, let's move swiftly on.
Then there's a naughty 40 cash payment. Well worth it. They get full nude with no holding back and everything that goes with that. What does that mean?
I don't know. Again, just move past it.
Does that mean bumhole?
It's best not to think
I
of
think
it.
I think it means bumhole.
Okay.
Then there's the filthy 50, which is the same, but just by card. 25% card surcharge.
Also, filthy fit. If anything, it's more hygienic than paying a card.
Yeah, the cash is the filthy 40 of
Yeah.
Then what you call it, the 50. The
Good point.
Nifty 50. Grifty.
Yeah, it's not
It's
thrifty,
not thrifty,
is
it's
it?
the opposite.
No.
And then he said, £100, not certain, as never paid it, but I think you get a private room, not just a curtain rail, and 20-30 minutes with the girl or girls. So how long do you get in the other ones? 15 minutes or
I
something.
suppose so.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I still feel like there's a lot to unpack there. Also, I noticed, looking later at the receipt, that on Trippier's receipt, or the receipt under his name, there was money added for a handling charge, which is probably just a service charge, but
something,
sounds like a menu item. Sounds like that's the level above £100. You had a story about For Your Eyes Only, didn't you?
Yeah. So I had some breaking news from 2014 from a Southampton branch of For Your Eyes Only about someone that you don't know and will remain nameless. But so I went to uni in Southampton, and there was a branch there. And anyway, this guy I went to halls with, who I won't name, but in Freshers Week he went out to I assume it was Oceania, and got into a dispute with another patron at the club. And this guy ended up knocking his tooth out, punched him in the face. Anyway, he woke up sort of missing his front tooth. Obviously so he went to an emergency dentist and got like a temporary crown put in, but it was for like 20 quid. But they said, like, this is really a short-term solution. You're going to need to get this sorted, and it's going to be like £300 for a permanent fix. So he came back to the flat and he was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't have that money. Like, I can't tell my mum, she'll kill me. So eventually he managed to call his dad and sort of grovelled and managed to get his dad to send him the money. So he booked a dentist appointment to get it sorted the following week. But in that time, his mate rocked up. I think he was in the army and he was on leave. And he just turned up unannounced at the flat and was like, right, you're coming out with me. So took him on a pub crawl, got him really pissed. And then anyway, I saw him the next morning and he was like, oh, George, I've done a bad thing. And he'd gone with his mate to For Your Eyes Only and racked up a £500 bill.
So 300's gone and he's had to
and
pay.
an extra 200, so all the tooth money's gone. And I was like, why would you do that? What? How did you spend that much money? And he went, she kept saying she thought I was sexy.
And it is that simple. I kept saying how sexy my tooth cap was.
Yeah, and and I didn't see him for a little while, and then like I think just before graduation, I bumped into him, and he still had the temporary tooth in.
And probably does now.
Yeah, bless him. But
that strip is now known as the Tooth Fairy.
Yeah,
sort of the inverse of the Tooth Fairy, though, isn't it? She's taking your tooth money away.
I suppose it is. Yeah.
Is he just one of those guys who just
lovely guy, but
can control himself?
Well, no, I think that was probably in fairness. I would imagine that was his one and only trip. I don't know.
Oh yeah, do you reckon?
I don't know. Would hate to cast aspersions.
Right. We also talked about Trippier's mates stitching him up with the old gambling charge. So he told them he was going to Atletico Madrid and he told them to lump on, and they did, and he got done for betting offences. So thanks to Jordan M on Patreon, who reminded us of a similar story about Daniel Sturridge.
Okay.
So Sturridge, he was leaving Liverpool in 2018, I think January transfer window. And he was told that Inter Milan were interested and he was all set to go there for talks.
Right.
And he got very excited and he told his family members, I'm going to Inter Milan. And one of his cousins whacked on 10 grand.
Jesus Christ.
At 17 to 10. So he would have made 17 grand.
Yeah.
Didn't happen in the end. He went to West Brom, which sparked quite a big family feud because the cousin claimed that other members of the Sturridge clan had basically agreed to like underwrite the 10 grand collectively, which they denied. So there was a big family feud. And then I think the FA got wind of this, and it turned out that Sturridge had also told his brother to bet on him going to Sevilla. So they found a text on his phone that said, "Put the grand on Sevilla. I'll give it back to you if you lose."
What, was he actually linked with Sevilla, or was it like?
Yeah, I think he was,
it wasn't just a stitch up.
No, I don't think he was trying to stitch him up. I think he was getting a bit overexcited.
Right. Okay.
He didn't realise that West Brom was more likely.
Yeah.
He thought he was just sort of mixing it with the big boys. And actually, it turned out that they put a lot of bets on as a family. 13,750 quid went on various transfers, and it says the news reports I read said that they got 10,700 back. So some of them must have got West Brom.
Well, I guess if he was 17 to 10 to go to Inter, then probably the odds of West Brom were all right.
I don't know, I guess even a stop clock eventually. Well, one of the options was West Brom. But yeah, it basically turned out that he'd been really encouraging it, and it was a bit of him, his brother and his cousin was sort of colluding on it. And he got a 4-month ban.
Yeah.
As well as costing his cousin some cash. Apparently they tried to put on far more, but the bookies stopped them. Yeah.
Probably for the best.
Yeah. I do sympathise with Sturridge a bit in that situation, because like what's clear from that story and the Trippier one is you're getting a lot of like messages from your mates and your family being like, "Where are you going? I want to lump on."
Yeah.
And like you obviously want to help them out and stuff.
And you say, yeah, Sevilla.
So it's going to be Inter Milan or Sevilla. Or West Brom.
Yeah, I really thought I thought he knew full well where he was going and just a bit of a prank.
Oh, well, just fuck him. 10 grand. 10 grand's a lot to lose for a cousin. Yeah, I kind of sympathise. I think like when you've got a lot of people relying on you, I think I'd rather just give them a bit.
I was going to say,
weeks.
I did think, I guess he shouldn't really have to cover his cousins, but you do think if that's caused a big family rift that's driving everyone apart, he could probably just write a check to smooth that.
You don't need to pay them in betting tips.
No.
Yeah.
Speaking of big transfers, have you seen Bournemouth defender Dean Howson? He's off to Real Madrid.
Yeah, that's a hell of a move.
He's done all right.
Yeah.
So they've activated his release clause, I believe. Feels like a big move, but the Howson family, they're no strangers to the big time. So Dean's dad, Donny, he was on the book at Ajax in the sort of early 90s, and he was nicknamed Maradoni because he scored 22 goals in a season. Basically a Dutch football presenter was talking about Dean's transfer this week, and he spoke about Donny, Maradoni. He said he was a decent footballer, but had some bad friends, which sort of led people to, wonder what he was talking about. It's quite vague. But anyway, someone did the digging, and it turns out Donny was supposedly friends with 3 of the people who kidnapped Freddie Heineken, who was the CEO of the Dutch brewing giant.
Oh right, he's the Heineken.
He was the heir to the Heineken fortune. Yeah,
Freddie Heineken's a good name.
Great name, and I think he was grandson or great grandson of the original Heineken.
He's like one of the richest people in the Netherlands, I think.
Yeah. So he was CEO. This is in 1983. So him and his limo driver were just waiting around, and they got snatched outside of Heineken's office by a group of, I think it was 5 guys, held hostage for 3 weeks. They were chained to the wall in a sort of corrugated iron shack on a business park. God. So proper,
tough.
Yeah. Eventually, anyway, the Heineken family paid the ransom. It was, it says $11 million. I read it was as much as maybe 16, 17 million
on which exchange
euros. Yeah.
Was
and that's
like
in 1983. So in today's money.
I think it was the biggest ransom ever paid. I don't know if that's Netherlands or
I wouldn't be surprised. I feel like most ransoms you don't get away with it.
Normally they just you get rescued, don't you?
Yeah.
I don't know.
But anyway, so they made off with this ransom, fled. I think one ended up in Paraguay, 3 of them ended up in France, kind of on the run. Eventually they all got caught, went to prison, served terms. But anyway, by the time Donny was doing his thing, he befriended 3 of them. They were already out of prison.
Oh, so they were reformed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Rehabilitated.
Yeah, exactly. They served their time.
Paid their debt to society.
Exactly that. So anyway, they became friends with Donny. And when Donny later transferred to AZ Alkmaar, he introduced 3 of the kidnappers to the club chairman, who was, he was terrified. Yeah. Quite rightly.
Because I imagine that wasn't just like, hey, meet my friends. It was like, my contract's up in the summer. Meet my friend.
Yeah. And I think everyone in the Netherlands knew exactly who they were.
Sipping Heineken can.
Yeah.
I also read that when he got kidnapped, when they eventually got the ransom, they just fled and left him chained up in the corrugated iron shack.
Did they really?
It's a bit like being made to run away from your own mugging. It's just like, you could at least cut the chains through.
Johan Derksen, this Dutch presenter, he said of this, he introduced those 3 friends, those Heineken kidnappers, to AZ. The chairman of AZ was terrified of those guys because they were the Heineken kidnappers. He had connections with them in one way or another, which is sounds ominous.
Yeah, he hasn't quite explained what happened, but it sounds...
No,
because isn't Donny Dean's agent as well as being his dad?
He is, yeah, he is now. So after retiring, Donny, he didn't go straight into to managing. he was arrested on suspicion of smuggling cocaine.
Oh right.
Yeah, but he was later acquitted.
Okay.
So and now he's Dean's agent.
Yeah, nice. So, I mean, that sounds like a guy who drives a hard bargain.
Knows a thing or two about negotiations.
Which would explain how he's got to move to Real Madrid.
Exactly. Yeah.
Dean is playing for Spain. I didn't realise. Because he grew up in Marbella, which is quite a fitting place for Donny to have moved after all that.
Yeah, it's very sexy beast, isn't it?
Yeah. Once again, Dutch football. We're getting close to a wrong uns 11.
We always said a 5-a-side, but
yeah, I think we're getting. I've actually got another one for you. Fern Snoyle.
Oh yeah, Snoily.
You'll remember him, of course, from
Snoily.
his 12-game stint at Aberdeen in the noughties.
Yeah, what's Snoily been up to?
So he's like a Dutch journeyman,
right,
with a great name. But he in 2022 he was named as a suspect in a major drug bust. There seem to be these major drug busts constantly. You know. There was basically this underground like WhatsApp style network that loads of criminal gangs were using in Europe, and it got infiltrated, which is why there's just been tons of these big busts. Like I think that's how Quincy Promise got done.
Right.
Anyway, Fern was named by public prosecutor. They said that his house was used to process cocaine, and he wanted to learn to do it himself. Don't we all? Detectives came across 5 kilos during a raid. he was allegedly controlled by a friend of his. Don't know what that means. He was sort of a junior player.
Right.
What I really like about the story is that the authorities named him, and they said, we're only naming him as a footballer called Fern S. And then in the press report, there was a photo of him in NAC Breda kit, which is the team he played for, and they just censored his face.
Yeah, Furness. No, that's too obvious.
Yeah.
F. Snoil.
What's the point of the Fern S thing? So yeah, I guess he can go in at left back, and then Maradoni can go up front.
Up front.
I think we got to just do the episode on the Dutch
Yeah, we can do that.
wrong uns 11. It is mental how much overlap there is.
We'd call it a Benelux 11. Where
Yeah, low countries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think we're there. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I
up
think
to 8 or
we're
9.
there. We'll do it. All right, it's probably time for us to head over to Tuchel's Dungeon, our Patreon, where we're going to be talking about the greatest football sex tape of all time. We are going to also talk about some other stuff, because the episode's actually about Derby's disastrous 11-point campaign in 07-08.
Yeah, expect maybe 2 minutes on on the league
Football.
form.
Yeah, I mean, people probably remember the awful football, and it was awful, and we are going to talk about that. But do they remember the fullback who shat in his teammate's fridge? Do they remember the player who climbed out the window to sneak out and sign for another club? Do they remember the assistant manager who was smashed around the jaw with an ashtray by his own defender? Or the fact that both of Derby's managers that season had sex scandals? All of that fucking happened. Not all of it in that season, I should say, but all of it happened in and around. And meanwhile, Derby also, just broke the record for how shit a season can be. So it feels fitting it's the end of the season. We're going to talk about all that.
Yeah, can't wait. There was also, I won't give too much away, but an amazing art installation by one of the players as well.
Yeah, he's calling it art.
Real Turner Prize stuff.
So if you want to hear that, you can join our Patreon. It's patreon.com/Upshot Towers. It's only £3 a month. Get a bonus episode extra week. So you get that. You get a few other pretty fruity ones we've been doing recently, and plenty more. So join us on there. And if you're not joining us in Tuchel's Dungeon right now, then we'll see you on Tuesday, where we are talking about the wildest stories from some of football's lesser known leagues around the world. We'll see you then. Thanks a lot for listening.